formed from the workings of water and limestone and time. Once they were the supernatural realm of an ancient culture who used them as a place of ritual and sacrifice. Today, as then, they conceal a world of mysterious, little-known animals. The human culture vanished long ago, but the creatures remain. And now the caves of Belize belong to them. This is Belize, in Central America, home to one of the most extensive cave systems in the Western Hemisphere. Now, 3 explorers are about to journey into caverns that once were the province of the Maya, a civilization that flourished here 1,000 years ago and then mysteriously disappeared. Dr. Jaime Awe is an archaeologist who specializes in the ancient Maya.
Check the light.
Dr. Bill Elliott is an expert in cave biology. Cirillo Chun, like most modern Maya, knows little about his ancestry. Like the others, he's here to learn.
All right, guys. Yeah, hold on to that there, Bill. Yeah. Why don't we just look over the edge here?
This trip will be a survey, not a scientific expedition, a way of seeing the caves more like the Maya saw them. The explorers come to the mouth of the underworld, a mythological realm the Maya called Xibalba, the place of fright. A mist hangs motionless over the cave's entrance. To the Maya, it was the rain gods, coming from their home in the cave, lingering before rising to make clouds and bring rain. Just beyond the cave's threshold, curtains of ghostly thread sway overhead, as if veiling what lies beyond. A closer look reveals a tiny beast, busy feeding. It begins by secreting a slimy thread from its mouth. Next, it hangs a loose network of webs across ledges and walls. From the webs, it dangles sticky threads that act like fishing lines. When the prey is caught, the wormy animal reels it up. This is the fungus gnat larva. It will feed for about 9 months, preparing for an adulthood that lasts only a few weeks. The upper world is left behind, and the explorers enter a domain the Maya thought was populated by gods and evil spirits. These are the paths traveled by the souls of the Maya dead. It's a challenging moment for Cirillo Chun. Even the modern Maya have strong beliefs about the caves.
Pues primero te vienen y chile chena do a casa I'm afraid to be in the caves in Xibalba because it is said to be a place of evil spirits, a place where things like tigers, snakes, and gorillas live. When people go into the caves, the spirits might put you to the test, and the test is not easy, and you might lose and die.
A network of underground rivers marks the way through passages that snake like veins beneath the land. These passageways cover hundreds of miles and open into galleries sometimes 200 feet high.
Hey guys, turn up.
The explorers come to a cathedral-like chamber, an unimaginable place of stone that drips from the ceiling, and monstrous columns looming from the floor. Water is the carver of caves. These exotic shapes depend on whether water drips, or seeps, or flows in sheets. Even to the modern eye, it's an otherworldly sight. Lurking in hidden chambers are the keepers of the Maya underworld. The journeyers enter the bat house and are besieged. Bats were associated in the Maya mind with darkness and night, with disease and death. They were potent actors in Maya myths, creatures to be reckoned with. The Maya were close observers of nature and might have noticed the relationship between the bat and a creature that feeds on it. The assassin bug needs blood to live. It uses its proboscis like a hypodermic needle. Even an attack on the bat's nose will go unnoticed. An anesthetic in the bug's saliva makes the operation painless. Many different species of bats live in these caves, but in this one, it's the fruit bat that's the most important supplier of food. Gathering their provisions in the upper world, they bring the bounty back to the cave and drop the waste to the floor in the form of fruits and seeds. And most vital of all, guano. Seeds in the guano grow long and pale without sunlight. The doomed sprouts are a snack for cave dwellers like the Paca. The guano itself feeds multitudes. Cave crickets lay their eggs here. The moisture makes a perfect incubator. And once the young hatch, they get a steady source of food. Looking like a mix of scorpion and spider, the amblypygid is one of the cave's most voracious predators. It's not after guano, it's after cricket. Extremely elongated legs make the amblypygid sensitive to the smallest vibration. With its own extra-long antennae, the cricket detects the enemy. The amblypygid senses a feast. In the caves, everything is food for something else.
Wonder what those holes down there.
These are gibnut holes.
The journeyers move on, deeper into Xibalba.
So you mean these gibnuts come all the way down here?
Oh, yes. They leave here all the way through the back here.
One of the most amazing things about doing archaeology in a cave is that it is perhaps one of the only environments that are pristine, that are the same way that the Mayas left them over 1,000 years ago.
Abandoned on the cave floor are the first physical reminders of the Maya. Scores of them. Pots were used for storing food or burning incense. They also collected water that dripped from stalactites, virgin water, for use in sacred rituals.
Oh my God, look at this. This is amazing. Wow.
High on a ledge, the explorers come to a single small room. Within this sanctum, a kind of altar. At the altar's center is a piece of slate carved in the likeness of a giant stingray spine. At its base, a blade made of obsidian. This may be where the Maya came to offer their blood to the gods.
And I've seen this painting on a polychrome vase where this individual is going like that, pricking his thumb, and then in the other scene, the thumb is extended out, and you can see the blood dripping into the vase. Okay. Obviously, another form of bloodletting would be taking the tongue out. So, you know, if you would take your tongue out, can you stick it out? Take it out. And you pierce the tongue underneath. Careful, this is really sharp. And then again, the blood would be collected and offered to the gods.
On their journey through the watery underworld, the Maya would have made their way in wooden canoes. Modern man goes by inner tube. Suddenly, the river vanishes.
Yeah, it's a little easier. The water's quite deep down there. Look at the size of this rock here. Can you imagine it? Oops, you okay? All right.
The explorers enter a world cut off from the rest of the cave. A place of shallow pools where colorless beings with no eyes swim. Unable to escape, this is where the true cave animals, the troglobites, spend their lives. Such strange creatures are too good a find for a biologist to pass up.
Look at that. It's a beautiful blind white crab.
Oh, yeah, really.
This is a troglobitic crab. It has no compound eyes. It's pale. It's very slender, and they live their entire life underground. And they're related to the land crabs out in the forest, I think. It could be a very old species. It may have been isolated in caves for hundreds of thousands of years.
Blind and deaf, the crab gropes its way in the dark, using its pinchers as antennae. Because there's no sunlight, pigment isn't needed for protection. In this realm where food is scarce, the search for nourishment is never-ending. For the shrimp and some of the other creatures here, survival depends on the ability to travel. Sometimes water dries up, and food must be sought in other pools, even if it means climbing. Over thousands of years spent in the dark, eyes degenerate, sometimes in odd configurations, like those of the catfish. Using their extraordinary senses, every animal here makes its way in this isolated universe. Over time, caves change. Rocks fall, creating new openings to the outside world. The water possum slides into a secluded pool. All its senses work perfectly in the dark. With its waterproof fur, webbed feet, and rough palms, it's well equipped for grabbing a meal in the watery world. When darkness descends on the upper world, some underworld creatures leave the caves. Lurking just outside, the stealthy make ready. The beasts go on the prowl. The fruit bat dines on the piper tree. Hanging from his feeding branch, he becomes a target for the eyelash viper. The bat, busy preening, is oblivious. This will be an ambush, sudden and deadly. One bat can last an eyelash viper several weeks. Meanwhile, the pacas leave their burrows inside the cave to search the entrance for food. They also do housekeeping, gathering leaves to line their dens. Coming around a corner, a large male intrudes on the scene. There's about to be a fracas over turf, and they're going to settle it with sound. Outsized cheek pouches amplify the din. The intruder concedes, and the victors rest. An even more difficult problem for the paca is the ocelot. Even humans consider paca a delicacy. But But any hunter will soon find out that catching this meal isn't easy. The paca reacts to danger with blinding speed. And if he finds himself cornered, the paca is good at sounding formidable. The final leg of the journey begins, into the deepest recesses of the underworld, more than a mile into the caves. Finally, the travelers come to a chamber. In the darkness and silence, signs of the Maya are everywhere.
Look at this huge one. Good grief. Oh.
This is where the Maya offered their most precious gift to the gods, the sacrifice of a human life. We don't know exactly why the Maya engaged in human sacrifice, but the occasion would have been of utmost importance, the supreme form of the bloodletting ritual that connected them to their gods.
This is amazing. Come here. Look at
Okay.
this. Look at all that. Wow. Just like different, all around the side there. This is unbelievable. Look at it. Wait, guys, come here. There's a skull.
Skull.
Yeah, come here.
Really? Wow. God, look at that.
Watch the pot there. This is really neat. This is amazing.
Very fantastic.
This skull has a flattened forehead and filed teeth, features considered beautiful by the Maya. Skulls were deliberately reshaped in infancy by binding the head. This one probably belonged to someone from the privileged class. Off the main cavern, a cramped passageway unwinds, leading to an even grimmer reminder of the rituals that once were held here.
Oh, look. Come here. Come here. Good grief. I can't believe it. It looks unbelievable.
In this case, the victim seems to have been a young girl.
It's about 4 feet, 8 inches.
The skeleton has been preserved by calcite, deposited by water that once flowed over it.
I don't think we'll ever really know what happened here. But I think for me, just this trip has been like a voyage through Xibalba, and where we are right now, it's like the deepest end of Xibalba. And just looking at this skeleton here, I could actually picture when the sacrifice was taking place, perhaps the individual screaming for the last time, and the priests around, and all the incense smoke going up, and some chant, some weird chant being sung.
For Cirillo Chun, this trip into Xibalba has had a personal significance.
When I first followed Jaime and Bill into the caverns, I was afraid, but I became courageous. Now I can come here alone because there's nothing to be afraid of. I have found my ancestors. In my imagination, they still exist, and they belong to me.
The underworld these men have passed through is still largely unexplored. Its creatures still mysterious and little known. But caves like those of Belize are a new frontier in both archaeology and biology. And this journey is only a beginning.